Before the title Governor Anne Waiguru, before the scandals, the headlines, and the political power, there was simply Anne Mumbi, a young, brilliant woman with dreams bigger than her world and a heart full of love for a man she thought would be her forever. This is the untold story of Anne Waiguru's first marriage, a love that began in faith, grew in promise, but ended in painful silence. Welcome to TMN Media, and remember to subscribe. Now, it all began in the 1990s. Nairobi was different then. The city moved slower, life felt simpler, and for many young professionals, the church was more than just a place of worship. It was a community, a home, a place where love story quietly blossomed, and that's exactly where Anne met Tony, inside the halls of the Nairobi Lighthouse Church. She was radiant, young, and full of ambition. He was charming, kind, and came from a respected family. His father, a member of parliament from Murang'a. To the congregation, they looked perfect together, a match blessed by both heaven and heritage. They grew together steadily, nurtured by shared faith and quiet admiration. After several years of dating, Anne Mumbi became Mrs. Anne Waiguru. For a time, the world seemed beautifully still. They had a home, they had hope, and above all, they had each other. But every love story has its test, and for Anne and Tony, the cracks began not from infidelity or betrayal, but from something far more subtle: doubt. It all started within the very church that had brought them together, the Nairobi Lighthouse Church. Tony's brother, a respected church in the same congregation, had become a central figure in their spiritual circle. But according to those close to Anne, something about that dynamic began to trouble her. Sources close to the family say Anne raised questions about conduct, about influence, and about what she felt was wrong in the church leadership. Her husband Tony, however, didn't agree. He saw her concerns as unnecessary, even disrespectful to the church family he held so dear, and that disagreement, that difference in spiritual conviction, marked the beginning of a quiet storm in their marriage. Anne, strong-willed and deeply principled, chose to follow her conscience. She left the Lighthouse Church and joined Karura Community Church, seeking peace and distance from the growing tension. But in doing so, the emotional distance between her and Tony began to grow even wider. While her marriage strained in silence, Anne's career began to soar. Her sharp intellect and disciplined work ethic caught the attention of big institutions. Soon, she found herself working at the World Bank, a position many could only dream of. It was a new world of deadlines, international travels, and demanding projects, a world far from the quiet domestic life they once shared. But success, as they say, can be both a blessing and a burden. Tony, raised in a more traditional setting, wanted presence, the comfort of a wife at home, the rhythm of a familiar routine. Anne, on the other hand, was driven by purpose, by ambition, by a desire to make a mark beyond her home. Slowly, the bond that once felt unbreakable began to fade. They were now living in two different worlds. His, rooted in family and familiarity, hers, expanding with every professional achievement, and soon love began to lose its language. Those who knew them say the silence came gradually. First, fewer shared prayers, then fewer shared dinners together, and finally fewer words that carried meaning. Anne's dedication to her new work grew. She was often away, constantly focused, sometimes unreachable. Tony, meanwhile, stayed grounded in his circles, his church, his values, perhaps still hoping the woman he loved would come back home in spirit. But by the time Anne's career reached its global peak, their marriage had already broken beyond repair. There was no public scandal, no loud confrontation, just two people quietly drifting apart, realizing they wanted different things, living different lives. They eventually agreed to part ways, a divorce that was handled in secret and dignity. No one spoke ill of each other, no bitterness spilled into the public eye, just a quiet ending to what was once a beautiful love story. And just like that, Mrs. Waiguru became Anne Mumbi once again, carrying not just her name but also the lesson, the scars, the silent strength of a woman who had loved, lost and learned. Even after the separation, Anne continued speaking highly of family values, often seen supporting her three sons from that marriage, Ian, Don and Wabu. She raised them as a single mother while climbing the ranks of Kenya's most demanding professional and political spaces. Many who have worked closely with her say her resilience was forged in those difficult years, learning to balance motherhood, ambition and the emotional cost of independence. It is said that behind her calm composure and strong leadership lies a woman who has already weathered storm far greater than political attacks. Perhaps that's why she remains unshaken even in the face of controversy. She's lived through the kind of pain that teaches you to walk alone, yet smile in the crowd. Years later, Anne would find love again, this time with renowned city lawyer Governor Waiguru, a union that brought her back into the light of companionship. But that's a story for another day. What matters the most is that the young woman who once left a marriage quietly broken rose again, stronger, wiser and more self-assured than ever. She turned her heartbreak into fuel, her silence into strength, and her past into perspective. The story of Anne and Tony isn't one of villains or victims. It's a story of growth, of two people who started to live together but grew in different directions. It's a reminder that sometimes love ends not because it failed but because people evolve. Anne's life shows us that even the most powerful women have tender beginnings, private heartbreaks and moments of doubt, and that sometimes losing something precious is what makes you unbreakable. Today, she is Governor Anne Waiguru, bold, ambitious, and unrelenting. But before the politics, before the fame, she was simply Anne Mumbi, a woman who once loved deeply, questioned bravely, and walked away quietly. Because sometimes strength isn't in staying, it is in knowing when to let go. You've been watching TMN Media, where we uncover the story behind Kenya's most powerful figures, stories of love, loss, and legacy. If you find this story captivating, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to keep the conversation going.